First contact in crisis. The message arrived during the graveyard shift at SETI's Deep Space Communication Array in New Mexico. Dr. Sarah Chen had been half asleep, her third cup of coffee growing cold beside her terminal, when the impossibly precise patterns began streaming across her screen. Within seconds, every alarm in the facility was blaring. "This can't be right," she whispered, fingers flying across her keyboard. But the data was undeniable. The signal wasn't just organized, it was a cry for help. Within hours, the UN Security Council convened an emergency session. The message, now decoded, painted a desperate picture. The Auroran Collective, an advanced civilization spanning 12 star systems, faced an unprecedented crisis. A cascade of quantum fluctuations was destabilizing their stellar engineering projects, threatening to trigger chain reactions that could destroy entire solar systems. "We have tried everything within our considerable knowledge," the message concluded, "but our physical forms are too fragile to implement the necessary repairs. We have observed your species' remarkable resilience. You may be our last hope." Admiral James Rodriguez stood before the hastily assembled council, his weathered face illuminated by holographic projections of the Auroran data. "They're right about one thing," he said, gesturing to the physiological comparisons. "Their species evolved in low-gravity environments with minimal radiation. They're brilliant, but physically fragile. What they're asking us to do would kill them in seconds." "And what exactly are they asking?" The Chinese representative leaned forward, eyes narrow. "To send teams into failed containment fields around engineered stars," Rodriguez replied. "Conditions that would liquefy their bodies. But for us," he smiled, "well, it would just be another bad day at the office." The debate raged for hours, but in the end, the decision was unanimous. Humanity would answer the call. Dr. Chen's discovery set in motion the largest mobilization of scientific and military resources in human history. The Aurorans, despite their advanced technology, had evolved in carefully controlled environments. Their bodies, while housing remarkable minds, could barely withstand the gravity of Earth's smaller moons. But their engineering achievements were breathtaking. They had learned to harness the power of stars themselves, creating vast energy networks that powered their civilization. Now those same networks were failing, and the Aurorans' physical limitations prevented them from implementing the necessary repairs. The quantum fluctuations they detected were growing exponentially, threatening to tear apart the delicate balance they'd achieved in their stellar engineering projects. "Look at these specifications," Dr. Maya Patel, Earth's leading quantum physicist, pointed to the holographic display. "They've achieved things we've only theorized about, but their solution requires working in conditions that would kill them instantly. The radiation levels alone. But we could survive it," Rodriguez asked, studying the data. "Technically, yes. Human bodies are remarkably resilient compared to most species we've theorized about. We evolved under constant radiation from our sun, in gravity that would crush most spacefaring species. What's lethal to them would be survivable for us, with the right protection." The next 48 hours saw a flurry of activity across every major space center on Earth. The Aurorans had provided detailed specifications for the equipment needed, but it all had to be modified for human use. Their tools, designed for their delicate hands and light gravity environments, needed complete redesign. Lieutenant Commander Zara Hayes watched as engineers modified spacesuits in the NASA fabrication facility. At 35, she'd spent more time in space than on Earth, commanding deep space maintenance missions to the outer solar system. "The suits need to be stronger," she insisted, pointing to the joints. "We'll be operating in gravity fluctuations that could tear standard suits apart." "Already on it," Chief Engineer Marcus Wam replied, his fingers dancing across a holographic interface. "We're incorporating metamaterials that can adapt to sudden gravitational shifts. The real challenge is maintaining mobility while providing enough protection from the quantum radiation." In orbit, the experimental ship Horizon underwent rapid modifications, Originally designed for long-term deep space missions, it would now serve as humanity's first vessel to make contact with the Aurorans. Its crew, chosen for their unique combination of skills and psychological resilience, represented the best Earth had to offer. Captain Elena Santos stood in the ship's observation deck, watching Earth rotate below. At 43, she'd commanded everything from nuclear submarines to space stations, but nothing could have prepared her for this mission. Her crew of 30 had been selected from thousands of volunteers, each chosen for their ability to adapt to extreme conditions. Final modifications are complete, Captain, her XO, Commander David Chen, reported. Engineering says the quantum shielding is as ready as it'll ever be. Elena nodded, her dark eyes fixed on the stars. And the Auroran modifications. Their environmental chamber is installed in the cargo bay. They'll be able to survive the journey in their preferred conditions. David paused. Though I still can't quite believe how different they are from us. Their representative nearly fainted when we showed them our normal gravity levels. Different paths, different solutions, Elena replied. They evolved for efficiency, developed their minds to incredible levels. We evolved for survival, became the ultimate generalists. Now they need our kind of strength. The launch countdown began as dawn broke over Cape Canaveral. The Horizon, sleek and modified with technology that barely existed a week ago, stood ready. Its mission: traverse 30 light-years in experimental faster-than-light drive, developed from Auroran specifications, reach the failing stellar engineering project, and attempt repairs that the galaxy's most advanced civilization couldn't perform themselves. As Elena strapped into the command chair, she thought about the irony. Humanity had always looked to the stars, imagining advanced aliens would arrive to share their wisdom. Instead, they found themselves answering a cry for help, their primitive physical resilience becoming their greatest asset. All stations, report status, she commanded, her voice steady, despite the historic significance of the moment. One by one, her crew confirmed their readiness. In the environmental chamber below, the Auroran Technical Advisor, a being who called itself first speaker of complex solutions, monitored the launch preparations through sensors adapted to its unique physiology. Horizon, you are cleared for launch. Mission Control's voice crackled through the speakers. Good luck, and Godspeed. As the engines ignited, Elena felt the familiar push of acceleration. They were about to attempt something never before achieved by humanity. Faster-than-light travel to save an alien civilization. The irony wasn't lost on her. Humanity's first steps into the galactic community would come not through technological superiority, but through their ability to endure conditions that would kill most advanced species. FTL drive spooling up, navigation reported. Quantum field stabilizing. Elena took a deep breath. Take us out, nice and easy. Let's show our new friends what humans can do. The Horizon rose through the atmosphere, its modified hull gleaming in the morning sun. Below, billions watched through feeds and screens as humanity prepared to answer its first interstellar distress call. Not as conquerors, not as students, but as the strong right arm that even the most advanced civilization sometimes needs. Operation Starshield. The Horizon's first faster-than-light jump was unlike anything its crew had experienced. Reality seemed to fold around them, the stars blurring into streaks of light before resolving into entirely new configurations. In the ship's environmental chamber, first speaker's crystalline body trembled with anxiety, both from the jump and from proximity to the humans themselves. Fascinating, it communicated through the translator. Your bodies maintain cohesion even during quantum displacement. Our physicists theorized this was impossible for carbon-based life. Dr. Maya Patel smiled as she checked the quantum field readings. We're pretty good at doing impossible things. It's a habit we picked up while evolving on Earth. The journey would take 5 days, even with the Auroran FTL drive. It gave the crew time to learn more about the civilization they were rushing to save. Through first speaker, they learned of the Auroran Collective's rise to prominence, their mastery of stellar engineering, and their eventual stagnation as their perfect environments removed all pressure to adapt. We believed we had reached the pinnacle of evolution, first speaker explained during one of the crew briefings. Our minds could comprehend the quantum fabric of reality itself, but we never considered that physical resilience might still be necessary. Captain Santos studied the holographic displays showing the failing stellar containment systems. These energy networks you've built, they're incredible. But why build them so close to the stars themselves? Efficiency. First speaker's translation came through. Minimal energy lost through distance. We designed maintenance systems to handle the extreme conditions, but the quantum fluctuations have rendered them inoperable. The radiation levels and gravitational forces now exceed our technological capabilities to compensate. Commander Chen frowned at the data. These readings, they're beyond anything we've dealt with. Even with our enhanced suits, we'll be operating at the very edge of human endurance. Then we'll find that edge and push past it, Lieutenant Commander Hayes replied, already working on modification plans for the maintenance procedures. It's what humans do best. The crew spent the transit time training in simulated conditions, adapting Auroran repair procedures to work with human physiology and equipment. The ship's artificial gravity was increased to help condition their bodies for the extreme gravitational stresses they would face. First speaker watched these preparations with growing amazement. Your species deliberately subjects itself to discomfort to improve performance. This concept was unknown to us. We call it training, Zora explained between sets of high-gravity exercises. Our bodies adapt to stress by becoming stronger. It's how we survived on Earth, and it's how we'll survive this. On the fourth day of transit, alarms blared throughout the ship. A microfracture in the quantum containment field had developed, threatening to destabilize their FTL bubble. It was exactly the kind of crisis that would have been catastrophic for an Auroran crew. Manual override required. First speaker announced, its crystalline form vibrating with distress. But the radiation levels in the drive chamber. Captain Santos was already moving. Hayes, Chen with me. Suits on. We're going in. The drive chamber was flooded with quantum radiation that made their radiation meters spike into the red. Even through their heavily shielded suits, they could feel the burning tingle of particles that technically shouldn't be able to interact with normal matter. The containment field is operating at 300% beyond Auroran safety limits. First speaker's voice crackled through their comms. You must exit immediately. Safety limits are more like guidelines for us. Alina grunted as she forced open the manual access panel. The quantum drive's core pulsed with energies that distorted the space around it. Chen, get ready with that patch. Hayes, help me hold this steady. Working together, they managed to seal the microfracture. The radiation exposure meters in their suits were all maxed out, but basic human biology, evolved under the constant radiation of Earth's sun, gave them a resilience that the Aurorans couldn't comprehend. Back in the medical bay, as they underwent radiation treatment protocols, first speaker approached them with what translated as profound confusion. You knowingly exposed yourselves to lethal conditions. Lethal for your species, Dr. Patel corrected as she administered the treatments. For humans, it's just a really bad day at work. We'll be sore, we'll need treatment, but we'll recover. This, first speaker's translation, seemed to struggle. This changes our understanding of intelligence in the galaxy. We assumed that advanced civilization meant moving beyond physical limitations. Elena managed a tired smile. Sometimes the most advanced thing you can do is embrace your physical nature rather than try to transcend it. Humanity never became perfect, and that's our strength. We're adaptable, we're tough, and we never learned when to quit. As the Horizon continued its journey toward the failing stellar networks, the crew's actions had already begun to change Auroran perceptions. First speaker sent detailed reports back to the collective, describing how these primitive humans had accomplished something their advanced civilization had thought impossible. Perhaps, it communicated to its superiors, we have discovered not just saviors for our current crisis, but teachers who can help us remember something we lost in our pursuit of perfection. The strength that comes from embracing challenge rather than avoiding it. The ship's quantum sensors detected their approach to the Auroran home systems. Ahead lay their real test, not just repairing advanced alien technology, but proving that humanity's place in the galaxy would be defined not by their technological advancement, but by their uniquely human capacity to endure and adapt. The human factor. The Auroran home system took everyone's breath away when they first saw it. Massive engineering structures encircled multiple stars, their quantum fields glowing with contained stellar energy. But the beauty was marred by visible instabilities, waves of distortion rippling through the fields like cracks in glass. Primary containment failure in 53 hours, first speaker announced, its crystalline form shifting colors in distress. Secondary systems are cascading. We have never seen deterioration at this rate. Captain Santos stood at the main viewport, watching energy patterns that could destroy entire planets flickering like broken neon signs. Show me the maintenance access points again. The holographic display highlighted 12 critical junctions where the quantum fields could be manually adjusted. Each was surrounded by radiation levels that would kill an Auroran instantly. Even with their enhanced suits, the human crew would be operating at the absolute limit of survival. These readings don't make sense, Dr. Patel said suddenly, studying the data streams. The fluctuations. There's a pattern here that shouldn't exist. First speaker moved to examine her findings. Impossible. The quantum matrices are designed to prevent any pattern formation. Chaos should be absolute at these energy levels. Yeah, tell that to the pattern. Maya pointed to her screen. Look, every 43 seconds, there's a pulse that synchronizes across all fields. It's like feedback in an audio system. Lieutenant Commander Hayes leaned in, her engineering experience spotting something the theoretical models hadn't predicted. The containment fields aren't failing randomly. They're resonating with each other. First speaker's translation device struggled to convey its mixture of shock and disbelief. But our models. Sometimes you need human eyes to spot what the models miss. Elena interrupted. We evolved pattern recognition to hunt on the savannas of Earth. Turns out it works pretty well for hunting problems in quantum fields too. The discovery changed their entire approach. Instead of trying to repair each junction individually, a task that would have taken too long, they could potentially stabilize the entire network by disrupting the resonance pattern. We'll need to adjust all 12 junctions simultaneously, David Chen calculated. Split-second timing, with teams working in conditions that could kill us if we're off by a fraction of a degree. Like performing surgery in a nuclear reactor during an earthquake, Hayes added with a grim smile, while wearing oven mitts. First speaker's crystalline body vibrated with concern. The computational requirements alone would require an artificial intelligence of considerable. No, Alina cut in. We do this with human instinct and coordination. Maya, you'll coordinate from here with first speaker. The rest of us will split into teams. We've got people who've worked rescue operations in nuclear meltdowns, deep-sea welders, and vacuum exposure specialists. Time to put all that harsh environment experience to use. The next 12 hours were a blur of preparation. The crew modified their suits yet again, adding layers of protection that made them look more like walking tanks than spacesuits. Each team memorized their approach vectors and timing sequences. Remember, Maya briefed them, you'll be feeling forces that could tear you apart. Your suits will help, but ultimately it's human bone and muscle that has to hold together in there. The moment anyone's vitals spike into the red zone, you pull out. No heroes today. Elena looked at her crew, seeing the determination in their eyes. We're about to do something that the most advanced civilization we've met thought was impossible. Not because we're smarter, not because we have better technology, but because we come from a world that taught us to be tough, adaptable, and too stubborn to quit. Let's show them what humans can do. The teams deployed in specialized pods, each approaching their designated junction point. The quantum fields distorted space around them, creating visual effects that threatened vertigo. Only their Earth-evolved inner ears, tested by millions of years of running, jumping and climbing, kept them oriented. Approaching Junction 7, Hayes reported, her voice steady despite the gravitational forces threatening to crush her pod. Visual confirmation of access point. One by one, the teams confirmed their positions. First speaker watched in amazement as the humans navigated conditions that their simulations had declared unsurvivable. Field distortion reaching critical levels, Maya announced from the horizon. Teams, prepare for synchronized access. Remember, you'll have exactly 20 seconds to make the adjustments before the radiation exposure exceeds survivable levels. Elena checked her team's readiness one last time. On my mark. 3, 2, 1. Execute. The teams deployed in specialized pods, each approaching their designated junction point. The quantum fields distorted space around them, creating visual effects that threatened vertigo. Only their Earth-evolved inner ears, tested by millions of years of running, jumping and climbing, kept them oriented. Approaching Junction 7, Hayes reported, her voice steady despite the gravitational forces threatening to crush her pod. Visual confirmation of access point. One by one, the teams confirmed their positions. First speaker watched in amazement as the humans navigated conditions that their simulations had declared unsurvivable. Field distortion reaching critical levels, Maya announced from the horizon. Teams, prepare for synchronized access. Remember, you'll have exactly 20 seconds to make the adjustments before the radiation exposure exceeds survivable levels. Elena checked her team's readiness one last time. On my mark. 3, 2, 1. Execute. 12 airlocks opened simultaneously. 24 humans pushed themselves into conditions that defied conventional physics. Their suits immediately began registering protest at the extreme conditions, but generations of evolution on a planet that had tried to kill them every day of their existence had prepared them for this moment. Junction 3, implementing corrections. Junction 7, modifications in progress. The status updates came rapid fire as each team fought against time and physics. Warning alarms screamed in their suits as radiation levels soared. The quantum fields rippled and twisted around them, fighting their efforts to impose order on chaos. Pattern disruption at 60%. Maya called out. Keep going. Hayes' hands were steady as she made microscopically precise adjustments, fighting against forces that wanted to rip her apart. Come on, you quantum bastard, she muttered. Work with me here. First speaker watched the sensor readings with what translated as awe. They're succeeding. They're actually succeeding. Their neural responses are adapting to quantum fluctuations that our best AIs couldn't predict. 10 seconds, Maya warned. Field coherence improving. Pattern disruption at 80%. Elena felt her bones creaking even through the suit as she made the final adjustments. Black spots danced at the edges of her vision. Last sequence, implementing now. A wave of energy pulsed through the entire network. For a moment, everything seemed to freeze. Then, slowly, beautifully, the quantum field stabilized. The resonance patterns shattered, replaced by the steady, controlled flow of stellar energy they were designed to maintain. All teams, get out of there, Maya ordered. Field readings stabilizing. It's working. The pattern is breaking down. One by one, the teams retreated to their pods, their suits smoking from radiation exposure, their bodies pushed to limits that would have killed most species in the galaxy. But they had done it. Through human determination, adaptability, and their unique ability to function in conditions that defied computer models, they had prevented a catastrophe. First speaker's voice carried a new tone, something between reverence and revelation. We thought we had reached the pinnacle of evolution by transcending physical limitations. But you showed us that true advancement comes not from escaping our physical nature, but from embracing it and pushing its boundaries. That's humanity for you. Elena managed through gritted teeth as the medical team began treating the radiation exposure. We never learn to be perfect. We just learn to be perfectly adaptable. Breaking point. Victory celebrations were cut short by a new alarm. While the quantum resonance had been broken, the massive energy discharge had created an unexpected side effect. A chain reaction was building in the stellar core itself, threatening to trigger a premature supernova that would destroy not just the containment system, but the entire Auroran home system. Impossible. First speaker's translation came through tinged with panic. The containment systems were designed with fail-safes to prevent exactly this scenario. Dr. Patel's fingers flew across her console. The fail-safes are working. That's the problem. They're trying to compensate for the energy spike by dumping excess power into the stellar core. It's creating a feedback loop. The medical bay had become an impromptu command center as the injured crew members refused to stay on their beds. Despite radiation burns and physical exhaustion, every human mind was focused on the new crisis. How long? Elena demanded, ignoring the doctor's attempts to continue her treatment. 7 hours until the reaction becomes irreversible, Maya replied. After that, we got maybe another hour before the star goes critical. First speaker's crystalline form had taken on a deep blue hue of despair. There is no solution. Even if we could get close enough to manually override the failsafes, the stellar core's current state is producing radiation and gravitational stresses beyond anything your species has yet endured. Lieutenant Commander Hayes, her face still pale from radiation exposure, studied the emergency protocols. What if we didn't try to stop it? What if we redirected it instead? Explain, Elena ordered, recognizing the look in her engineer's eyes. The containment system isn't just for harvesting energy. It can also channel it. If we could modify the quantum fields to create a directed corridor, she paused, making rapid calculations. We could vent the excess energy into space, away from any populated systems. First speaker's translation device struggled to keep up with its rapid analysis. The calculations would have to be perfect. The slightest error would redirect the equivalent of a supernova's worth of energy back into the system. Then we'll be perfect, Elena stated simply. She looked at her crew, seeing the exhaustion in their faces, but also the determination. We've got one shot at this. I need volunteers. Every hand in the medical bay raised immediately. The radiation levels near the core. First speaker began. Will kill us if we get it wrong, David Chen finished. But that's not going to stop us. The next 6 hours were a blur of preparation and modification. The engineering team, working through their injuries, modified their suits yet again. They cannibalized non-essential systems from the horizon itself, adding layer after layer of protection. Dr. Patel worked with first speaker to calculate the exact modifications needed for the quantum fields. The timing has to be precise to the microsecond, she explained. We'll have to synchronize the field adjustments with the star's natural pulse. A task that would require at least 20 of our most advanced AIs, first speaker noted. We're going to do it with 4 humans, Elena replied. Because we have something your AIs don't. Intuition built from millions of years of evolution. We can feel rhythms, adjust to patterns in real time. The chosen team consisted of Elena, Hayes, Chen, and Dr. Patel. Their modified suits looked barely humanoid now, more like abstract sculptures of metal and exotic materials. The plan was simple but nearly impossible. They would need to get closer to the stellar core than any human had ever been, establish a synchronized link with the quantum fields, and then perform a perfectly choreographed sequence of adjustments to create the energy corridor. First speaker insisted on remaining on the bridge to coordinate despite the increasing danger. If you fail, I wish to share the fate of those who tried to save us. As the team prepared to deploy, Elena addressed the rest of the crew. If this works, we'll have done more than save a solar system. We'll have proved that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our intelligence. It's our ability to face the impossible and refuse to back down. The approach to the stellar core was like flying into hell itself. Their suits' sensors were overwhelmed by the radiation levels. The quantum fields twisted reality around them, creating visual distortions that would have driven most species mad. But humans, with their stubborn ability to adapt to extreme conditions, pushed forward. Approaching primary projection point, Hayes reported, her voice strained but steady. Gravitational stress at. Actually, I don't know. The sensors maxed out 2 minutes ago. We're past the point where machines can help us. Alina responded. Trust your instincts. Feel the rhythm of the star. They positioned themselves at 4 points around the failing containment system. The star pulsed beneath them, a living thing of unimaginable power. Their suits were beginning to degrade under the extreme conditions. Synchronizing in 3, 2, 1. Maya's voice guided them as they began the delicate process of modifying the quantum fields. They worked with a precision that seemed impossible under such conditions, their minds and bodies pushed to absolute limits and beyond. Field integrity at 40%, compensating for gravitational shear. Core temperature still rising. The star's power fought them every step of the way. Warning systems screamed as their suits began to fail under the astronomical forces, but they held on, their modifications slowly taking effect. The quantum fields began to shift, forming a corridor of contained energy that stretched out into space. It's working. First speaker's voice carried both amazement and hope. The core temperature is stabilizing. Energy levels dropping. Then everything went wrong. A solar flare, impossibly massive, erupted directly beneath them. Their suits' remaining sensors overloaded instantly. The quantum corridor wavered, threatening to collapse. We're losing containment, Chen shouted over the comm. Field integrity failing. Elena made a split-second decision. Hayes, Chen, Patel, get back to safe distance. I'm going to manually stabilize the field junction. Captain, no. Hayes protested. The radiation levels. That's an order, Commander. Elena was already moving, pushing her suit past its design limits. Someone has to hold this together until the corridor fully forms. She positioned herself at the critical junction point, directly in the path of the solar flare. Her suit began to melt around her, but she held position, manually adjusting the quantum fields through pure instinct and determination. The next 3 minutes were an eternity of pain and focus. Alina felt her consciousness wavering as radiation leaked through her failing suit. But she held on, making micro-adjustments to the fields, feeling rather than seeing the energy flow. Core temperature dropping. Corridor stability at 90%. 95. Maya's voice seemed to come from very far away. Captain, you did it. Get out of there. Elena tried to move, but her suit had partially fused in the intense heat. The last thing she remembered was Hayes and Chen flying back into the maelstrom to retrieve her. She awoke 3 days later in the Horizon's medical bay, her body racked with pain, but very much alive. First speaker stood nearby, its crystalline form glowing with a new color that the translation device interpreted as profound respect. You should have died, it stated simply. The conditions you endured. They violated multiple laws of physics regarding organic survival. Elena managed a weak smile. Humans have a habit of doing that. How's the star? Stable. The corridor worked perfectly. But more importantly, you have taught us something we had forgotten in our pursuit of technological perfection. That true resilience comes from within, not from our machines. Legacy of Two Worlds. 2 months after the crisis, the Horizon's crew stood in the Grand Assembly Chamber of the Auroran Collective. The chamber had been specially modified to accommodate Earth normal gravity and atmosphere in a sectioned-off area, a sign of the changes already taking place in Auroran society. Captain Elena Santos, still showing signs of her near-fatal radiation exposure, but standing proud, faced the assembled Auroran leadership. Their crystalline forms shimmered with colors that the human translators now recognized as expressing deep reverence and curiosity. First speaker, now bearing the additional title of Human Understanding Coordinator, addressed the assembly. We gathered today to honor not just the saving of our home system, but the beginning of what we believe will be the most significant partnership in galactic history. The chamber's holographic displays showed images from the crisis, humans working in conditions that had been deemed unsurvivable, their determination defying both physics and probability. But more importantly, they showed what had happened since. In the past 2 months, first speaker continued, we have begun to re-examine our most fundamental assumptions about evolution and progress. We thought we had reached perfection through technological advancement and the elimination of physical challenges. We were wrong. Dr. Maya Patel stepped forward, her presentation displaying the results of the joint human-Ororan research projects already underway. By combining Ororan quantum engineering with human adaptability and intuition, we've developed new approaches to stellar engineering that neither of our species could have created alone. The displays showed the modified containment systems, now incorporating both Ororan precision and human flexibility. The quantum fields had been redesigned to adapt and respond more like living things, creating a hybrid of technological and biological approaches that made them far more stable and resilient. Lieutenant Commander Hayes, working with a team of Ororan engineers, had developed new training programs that taught the crystalline beings how to operate safely in higher gravity environments. While they would never match human endurance, they were learning that their bodies could adapt more than they had believed possible. Our bodies remain fragile compared to yours, an Ororan scientist named Seeker of New Paths commented, demonstrating exercises in 0.3 Earth gravity. But we are learning that fragility does not mean we cannot become stronger. Commander Chen had been working with Ororan Defense Forces, helping them develop emergency protocols that didn't rely solely on technological solutions. Sometimes the simplest approach is the most effective, he explained. Your technology is incredible, but it should augment your natural capabilities, not replace them. Elena watched these presentations with pride, but she was more interested in the subtle changes she observed in Ororan society, where once they had feared and avoided any physical challenge, now they were beginning to embrace controlled adversity as a path to growth. Young Ororans were volunteering for training programs that would have been considered dangerously primitive months ago. We thought ourselves to be the teachers of younger races, first speaker addressed Elena privately after the ceremony. Instead, you have taught us that true advancement comes not from transcending our natural forms, but from fully understanding and embracing them. Elena smiled, touching the scared tissue on her arm, where radiation had leaked through her suit. And you've taught us that raw endurance isn't enough. We need to temper our strength with wisdom and precision. The Horizon's mission had evolved far beyond its original emergency response. The ship now served as a floating embassy and research station, its crew working with Ororan scientists to develop new technologies that combined the best aspects of both civilizations. The galaxy is a far more dangerous place than we imagined, first speaker told the assembly. But perhaps that is not something to fear. Our human friends have shown us that facing challenges, even surviving them, can lead to greater strength than hiding from them ever could. As if to emphasize this point, the ceremony was being held near the stellar core that had nearly destroyed their civilization. The containment systems, redesigned with human insights, now pulsed with a stable rhythm that matched the star's natural flow rather than trying to completely control it. We propose a permanent exchange program, first speaker announced. Human advisors to help us rediscover our physical capabilities, and Ororan scientists to help humanity refine and focus their natural resilience. Together, we can become something greater than either of us could be alone. Elena took the podium for the final address. Looking out at the assembled beings, human and Ororan together, she felt the weight of the moment. When we received your distress call, we didn't know we were about to change both our civilizations forever. You needed our strength, yes, but we needed your reminder that strength without purpose is meaningless. She gestured to the star burning steadily behind them. This star nearly killed us all. Now it stands as a symbol of what we can achieve together. Humanity brings its determination, its ability to endure and adapt. The Auroran Collective brings its wisdom, its incredible technological achievements, and its vision of what's possible. Apart, we each had weaknesses that could have doomed us. Together, she smiled at first speaker, who had become a close friend despite their profound differences. Together, we're ready to face whatever challenges the galaxy has in store. The assembly chamber erupted in the Auroran equivalent of applause, a harmonic resonance that made their crystalline forms shimmer with every color imaginable. The human crew felt the vibrations in their bones, a physical reminder of how different their new allies were, and how those differences made them stronger together. As the ceremony concluded, Alina stood at a viewport with her crew, watching the restored star burning bright and steady. Hayes joined her engineer's mind already working on new projects. "You know," she said, "I think we've only scratched the surface of what we can learn from each other. That's what makes it exciting." Alina replied, "We came here thinking we were just answering a distress call. Instead, we found a whole new way forward for both our species." First speaker approached them, its crystalline form now comfortable moving in the higher gravity of the human section. "The stars are not barriers to be conquered," it said, "but teachers, if we are wise enough to learn their lessons. You humans taught us how to learn those lessons again." Together, human and Auroran watched the star that had nearly destroyed them, now a symbol of their combined strength. It was just the beginning of a partnership that would reshape both their civilizations, proving that true advancement comes not from overcoming one's nature, but from embracing it fully while remaining open to change. The horizon would soon return to Earth, carrying not just tales of their success, but the blueprint for a new kind of future, one where humanity's greatest strength wasn't just their ability to survive, but their ability to help others find their own kind of strength.